I'm way excited to say I got through week 8 and I'm a little ahead of schedule because I am trying to release all the way through the end of the semester. And what do I mean by a little bit early? Well, I've only seen one Dev 1 at this point, okay, which you have due tomorrow night. So I'm a little ahead. I have next week, and this is the week after. Okay, so next to the last week in this course, and it was a fun one. Um, this content, she really focuses on building games here, right? So in this week, we continue to do that with doing the snake game, right? And then continuing on part 2 with the snake game. And then on the third day, day 22, doing Pong. God, that was fun. Actually, all 3 of these were really fun and also a bit challenging. I definitely know that I spent, especially on Pong, there was a moment there where I wrote something and I put it in the to dos or in the how to for day 22. So make sure you check that. I wrote a method that actually was part of the turtle method and it threw me into an hour of time. But it really made me also really focus on the ideas, making sure I understood the foundation, which was good. So I'm happy about that. So anyway, that's really not what we're here. We're here to talk about this. Okay. So for this last learn together, I have spent a moment looking forward to next week and looking forward in the sense that I'm going to do a bit of planning here. So I'll show you what I've done because based on my attendance post for week 7, I know you heard me kind of trying to figure out how we were going to approach our last dev together. So this is my current view of this. It's fairly short, but is to take your code from dev 1 and refactor it into OOP and have at least one part of the user interface in Turtle. Okay. I mean, I want to say have it all done in Turtle, but I also want to say really what you've learned in this case is not just Turtle and how to present things on the screen, how to do game logic. Remember, as I said before, everything that you've learned here on games can apply to any kind of user interface, so it's all good stuff. And I'm going to have my example by the time you watch week 9 attendance for this as well, how I'm going to handle this, because mine is not a game. Mine's doing EV charging sessions, and I thought I could do some fun things like have a battery that I charge up. Anyway, thinking about that. So anyway, that's your Dev 2 major requirement. If you choose a different topic, make sure it meets the requirements of really Dev 1, but I put them both in there. And then, as before, right, if you use third-party libraries, you need to set up instruction and the required TXT. And I need to put this in there. It is definitely your own code, okay? So as before, the code review, but as I said, the code review is a little more challenging because, and let me just roll forward to remind all of us at this point, and I should probably talk about this in attendance, but I've made the code due here, which means really we only have one day for any of you that aren't already seeing me before, which means this could be a pretty busy Friday, and I will have sessions probably starting at 9 in the morning until sometime. So you probably, if you can help it, don't want to start that late. And the thing is now, here at week 8, which is kind of what I'm preferencing this, you can actually be working on right now this last dev. Okay. So that's really why I wanted to bring up the calendar and just to give you the preview. Because right now we have had enough experience through writing the games to see how to set up the classes where I want you to think about it. So as an encouragement, what I'm going to do in this learn together is actually have you do some documentation of these classes. Okay? And that's what I talked about here. So there's 2 things, one thing graded, one thing not. So, but remember back on day 16 where we first saw OOP, where she took what we wrote in regular procedural code and built the coffee machine? But in this case, we didn't build it, we just used her methods, right? So I'm attaching that document. I think I have it open here as well, right? So what I want you to do is go through and document the classes, the attributes, and the methods, right? So attributes, just values or strings or whatever you need for your app. Methods, we know are functions, right? So obviously your classes, right? So you're probably the one of the first questions I'm going to get is how many should I have, right? Well, you this is part of what you want to think about here. And this is why I'm giving you this to harpen back to, because there isn't necessarily a number of, but it's definitely more than two, is what I would say, right? Because there's different aspects of what you're doing in your code, and you want to break them into their logical organization of class. So this documentation process should help you. That's the reason I'm doing it. Okay. Okay. So now take your Dev 1, right? And document the classes you plan to build for Dev 2. And then do this work in week 8 in the public repo and create a readme.md file. You can use the outline. I mean, if you really want to do it in Word, you can create a PDF and upload it into from your VS Code into there if you want, right? If you're thinking of doing something different for Dev 2, then you will need to make sure it meets the requirements of Dev 1 and your documentation will be for your new topic. If you haven't spent enough time thinking about it, you may end up having to do your Dev 1 for this assignment, but really try to not do that because it really isn't going to help you get ready for the last Dev, which is really my point of this. So the first thing you want to do here is once you get this done, in your reply, give us a link to your output, right? And then talk a little about the process of doing this and things that came up when you were thinking about it. And maybe, and matter of fact, I should probably do this. The other thing I would say would be good to think about here is what the turtle interface would look like, right? Because along the way of building the classes, probably thinking about how that would output into turtle would be good. So I almost want to add something here to, in addition to documenting your classes, I want you to at least, and you could do this, you could draw out like what it would look like on Turtle. Because the thing we have seen on Turtle is the prompt of an input. We haven't seen buttons, although I read something recently about that. So, I don't know. I'm also trying not to give you a lot of work here because I want you to work on your dev too. So, at your own discretion, do that as well. The other thing is in your reply, do me a favor, if you feel comfortable, right? Your feedback, and boy, is this important to me because it really is. And this semester, this 9-week short term course has been a challenge for so many reasons, as I've already talked about through my videos. But, um, you know, ha- your feedback is important. Is there something you think I should change? Consider changing. Not, again, I read your feedback, I take it into consideration, and then I really sit with it and think about should I change that. Now, next semester, by the way, this class will be taught with these same materials, but in a 18-week mode. Okay. Okay, so that's in there. If you don't feel comfortable doing it here, then please email me directly, or right. The other thing you can do, and this is okay too, is rate my professor. Right, I appreciate that as well. Whatever the feedback does not have to be positive. Right. So you can come look at this. Where's it at? Where's some of the feedback? Okay, cool. That's nice. Awful. Yeah, sometimes you get an awful. Yeah. Yeah, that happens, right? Can't all get good reviews. Okay. Um, so going back here. So whichever way you feel like it'd be helpful to me or to your other, or again, rate your professors anonymous so you don't have to to do that. So that's it. All right. I do not have, and I will put it on here, do have at least 2 replies so that you can see what other students kind of their take on their classes. I think that's helpful. So I'll put that in the documentation. Hope that helps. Talk to you later.